My name's Nancy Cohen. I'm a sculptor. I live in Jersey City, New Jersey. It's called Perspectives on Salinity, and it's actually based on the Hudson River, on the mixing of salt water and fresh water, the salt water coming from the Atlantic Ocean and the fresh water coming down from the Adirondacks. About 3 years ago, I worked with Dori Papadimitriou, who's the curator of the Noise Museum, on a piece about the Mullica River for the Noise Museum. And in the process of working on that piece, I met with marine biologists here at Stockton State College and the environmentalist at the Forsyth Wildlife Refuge, did some studying of the Mullica River, of the mixing of fresh and salt water in the estuary, of some of the environmental dangers that are affecting that river, and studied the color change as the river starts, where the trees are leaching in and the color is sort of a tea color as it moves into a bluer shade as it moves toward the ocean. The installation is made out of handmade paper. The paper is called abaca, the pulp. It's a fiber made from a plant similar to the banana plant from the Philippines. I chose this paper because it's very strong and very lightweight and takes color beautifully and can be both translucent and heavy, and it's being used in both ways in this installation. If you look at the paper, there's parts of it that have almost like round wire shapes that to me are representative of sort of bubbles on the surface of the water, and that paper has watermarks in it, and a watermark is the same thing that you have when you look at a dollar bill and you can see through it. So when you look at this installation, when there's daylight coming through it, the parts that have those bubble shapes, you see another color coming through, and that's because the piece is made of 2 sheets of handmade paper, each that are a slightly different color, and the watermarks are on both sides, so depending on which way the light is hitting, you have the piece of paper that's one color and the light that's coming in through another color, similar to when you look in a river, you see more than one color at one time. You see the color on the surface and the color below and the colors from the light reflecting. So I'm trying to play with those ideas. And then the other paper is a heavier paper, also abaca, but made much thicker. And that is meant to reflect on the saltwater paper. And that paper actually has salt that was sort of dusted on the surface of the paper as it was wet so that the salt crystallized, and you can see the texture of the salt crystals on that paper. The paper was colored in the process of making the paper. The paper itself is almost an off-white, almost a bone color, and it was pigmented in the pulp stage before I made it into sheets of paper. So I had 2 what they call giant vats of pulp, one that was almost an ochre tea color and one that was a dark blue. And every time I made a new sheet of paper, it was some combination of one and the other mixed together, sort of simulating the mixture of the waters. The original idea of the mixing of the salt and fresh water, these materials, these colors, all of that, you know, has stayed consistent, but I've worked quite a bit with the placement as in the space in terms of the way the light came in, the height of the ceiling, the curve of the room, the triangular shape here. All of those things have impacted the way the installation took form. So it's definitely been a response to the site. There was an idea beforehand and the elements made and then reconfigured in the actual environment being here. Just to have this sort of bow out a little bit, tiny bit higher, but basically, you see what I mean? The yellow-green you got, right? Not over here, like the really mustard color. Sort of right in the middle where those 2 or 3 sheets are together. So it's sort of like, it'll be like this. No, it's not. It's straight above me right now.
All right, that one.
It's been a challenge to work in this space for lots of reasons. The really high ceiling, the 50-foot high ceiling, and the machinery that we need to install it. It's hard to maneuver in here, and there's been sort of some architectural adjustments that have had to be made, so it's been a lot of thinking on my feet. You know, I want the experience of the space, which is already quite beautiful, to be only enhanced. Certainly not to take away, to give you something else. Somebody that came by said it reminded them of kites, which isn't what I was thinking about, but the idea of movement and paper moving in the wind, you know, that's fine with me. Somebody else said it was making them think of water and fish. And that is really just what I was thinking about, not the fish, but certainly the movement of the water. So I feel like the interpretation is open. And another complete delight was that the palette, the colors of the piece, were completely inspired by the color of the water. But when I got here, the furniture turned out to be almost exactly the same color, which is a complete accident, the blue and the turquoise and the kind of yellow greens. So there's all kinds of lovely things. And I knew what the windows looked like, but I didn't know about the, how close I would be to the trees. So another really nice thing is when you look at it from certain angles, it kind of is really working with the trees and the light. It works visually from all the different vantage points. So you see it from the outside of the building, you see it from when you're entering through the lobby, you see it when you're sitting in the dining room, and you see it upstairs at the balcony, and you see it differently in each of those places. So as we've been installing, I've been moving around so that it's sort of working visually from each space and creating somewhat of a different experience from each level. So it's been a challenge, but now that it's almost done, it's quite exciting, and I'm very pleased with how it looks.